Hey there, welcome to the DFS Build NFL DFS Preseason Edition. I'm Kevin Roberts, getting ready to help you go over the Thursday three-game slate for this week before we get rolling for the rest of week one. Going into the weekend, hopefully we can win some cash. Gave out some picks and advice for the Hall of Fame game slate. I was able to cash. Hopefully you were too. Give me a like on this video if I helped you then, if I help you in this. Also subscribe to the channel if you're new here, if you want to catch DFS videos for all the major sports. And also you can check out our Patreon/Discord, $5.99 for the entire month for all the picks and write-ups and Discord access. All of that is rolled into one little thing. We just want to grow the community and have everybody in there together trying to win big. One fun way to do that is on a slate like this. There's a lot of edge in preseason. And if you do the right things, you just give yourself a chance to win. So let's get to it. Let's go position by position. Quarterback first, Joe Burrow and the Bengals. I mean, this is the thing about preseason is you have to go look for the information that's out there, and you kind of also have to read into it a little bit and try to figure out what these guys actually mean, and then also compare that information to other information that we have. So the information we have right now available to us is that the Bengals are going to play a couple of series or several series, whatever that means. The good news is that does mean the Bengals are probably going to be out there offensively for probably at least 2-3 series, maybe a full quarter, maybe more. Zach Taylor, the coach for the Bengals, has been very adamant about the Bengals getting off on the right foot this year. They had a really slow start last year. The weird thing is offensively, that isn't their problem. Their defense is garbage. So that's going to be the thing they want to work on the most. I don't really see risking, Burrow, Chase, Higgins, all these guys, Chase Brown, who I love for redraft, and just across the board, I like Brown. I just don't see the point in doing that. That said, they have 3 preseason games. They're going to pick that up. They're going to ramp up more and more as we go. So I wouldn't be that shocked for them to go more on the lighter side. So I personally would be betting on Burrow and Co. to play 2 to 3 drives. And if the field's going to be like really over on them and like super exposed because they're excited about the big play potential and everything, I'm going to lean even harder into that. That said, it's not a great quarterback field. There's a couple other guys that I really like for this slate. Burrow is in play for sure. I have a pretty tight player pool, but Burrow is in it just because we know for sure he's going to play, and he's going to play a little bit, enough to get us excited. After he leaves, we could get a good dose of Jake Browning. Jake Browning has some good regular season experience and did decently well when Burrow got hurt a couple years ago. So I don't have a problem with going to Jake Browning. Just for the most part, I'm just looking at Joe Burrow in that game. On the other side, we haven't caught word yet on Jalen Hurts. My assumption is he would not play in this game, and if he did, he'd play very little. I don't have a ton of interest in like Tanner McKee and the backups for Philly, but if Hurts is out, McKee would probably start and get about a half of play. So he's viable if that's the case. And if Hurts does play, I would imagine he's pretty limited, so I don't have a ton of interest there. I'll start actually back over here just because that's the first team on the docket here for the Colts. The Colts is probably the first spot where I'd look and feel like really comfortable. Anthony Richardson and Daniel Jones are competing each other for the QB1 spot in Indy. We already know for a fact AR-15 is going to start this game, and he is going to play about a quarter and a half. So whatever that half actually means to Indy based off like where they are in the second quarter, your guess is as good as mine. We just know that he's going to play over a quarter, hopefully a full quarter and an actual half, maybe even both those quarters. I don't know. But if we're getting a 1.5 quarters out of Anthony Richardson, who is a monster DFS player, monster upside with a cannon for an arm going down the field, and elite rushing ability, just gives us that built-in floor. I love him on this slate, and I like him more than Joe Burrow. You can also consider Daniel Jones. We don't know for sure how much Daniel Jones is going to play after Anthony Richardson, because Daniel Jones is going to rotate, in as the starter the next week. It's possible we don't get that much of him in the second game, and then we see a lot more of like Riley Leonard in the second half. It just seems like a situation to stay away from. I think Anthony Richardson, since he's the starter, and we know what kind of DFS player he is, that's the play I'd want here for Indy. I think Daniel Jones and to a lesser extent Riley Leonard are in play, but just not going to be priorities for me. On the other side, Lamar Jackson and co. are not going to be playing in this game. It's already kind of ruled that they're just not going to play. All the main starters are out. So we're looking at Cooper Rush and Devin Leary. Don't have a ton of interest there. There isn't official word yet on how much those guys are going to play. I'm guessing they're just going to split the reps, and they would both be okay plays. But unless we got official word that like Rush is like playing the entire game or something, I just don't see a reason to force the Baltimore quarterbacks. Las Vegas, Geno Smith and the starters. Pete Carroll said they will be ready. I don't know what that means. Geno Smith is 34 years old. He's a veteran. Like, you don't need to play him a ton. It's only the first of 3 preseason games for Las Vegas. So I would imagine at best we're getting a Joe Burrow situation. And at worst, he comes out for a drive and leaves, right? The other thing, by the way, to consider with these drives or these series that they're committing to, number one, they're flippant. There's nothing really, set in stone. Number two, their drives could be awful drives. They could have like 3 drives and they all go 3 and out, and then like that's it. I would think as the coach, if you're actually committing to the drives, you wouldn't want to do that, but you just don't know. But if we're in a similar situation and we don't actually know anything, it's Burrow over Geno all day. As excited as I am, like you, to see what Geno and the Raiders are capable of doing, I'm just obviously going to go with the more talented player and the better overall offense. Not knowing what Geno's going to do, Aiden O'Connell does have regular season experience. Not the best DFS player, but if we're going to get like 2.5 quarters of Aiden O'Connell or something, he's in play. Just not something I'm super excited to play. On the other side, Sam Darnold and the Seattle starters are not going to play in this game. That means a lot of Jalen Milroe. Love him. He is my QB1 on this slate. AR-15 and Burrow are going to be just behind him. They're very, very good options, but Milroe is going to be the play. I would imagine he starts and gets close to, if not the entire first half. And even if he doesn't start, I would imagine on the other side, Drew Lock would be the one who would get that. And then they're just going to split these halves most likely. Drew Lock is viable. Like, I don't mind Lock. If he starts, I'd feel a little bit better about him as far as like him being safe. But between the two, Milroe is definitely the guy that I'm excited to see personally. And I think he's just a great DFS option. We should feel pretty comfortable about his burn. So in summary, at quarterback, my pool personally, I'm looking at Milroe and AR-15, Anthony Richardson, and of course, Joe Burrow. Running back is going to be a little bit more tough to read. We don't have a ton of news on the running backs, and I'm just going to have to lean into like these other situations where starting lineups are just definitely sitting. Indy's not one of those for sure yet. There is no news officially on Jonathan Taylor, but he is their prized possession at running back. And they're not, that's the other thing. They want to have these guys out there so Anthony Richardson or Daniel Jones can have the best chances of success, so they can actually accurately grade these guys and assess them properly. So I would imagine if Jonathan Taylor does suit up, he could get a handful of series to see what, how he does with Anthony Richardson, and to give Anthony Richardson the best chance to succeed. But ultimately, I just don't. I wouldn't be super shocked. I wouldn't be shocked if JT just was not super involved. So with that being the case, considering he's probably not going to play a ton, maybe not at all. Khalil Herbert is his top backup. I think he's okay. The guy I'm really interested in playing though is DJ Giddens. Just great college back. He slipped late in the draft, but it's major steal for Indy, especially considering JT's injury history and just the fact that like Herbert's just like an okay backup. So I just think he's going to get a lot of playing time, and he's a talented back that does still need to prove himself because, of course, you still have Tyler Goodson there too. So like, is Giddens even locked into a roster spot? Not really. So if you have not a ton of guys in front of you, and you have like motivation or there's competition there, I think those are things we really want to look for, especially in preseason. So Giddens is definitely one of the top backs I'm looking at. For Baltimore, I'm not expecting to see the starters. No Derrick Henry. Justice Hill's probably going to be the first guy. I think going into the Hall of Fame game, I was like, I'm not playing Craig Reynolds. And then Dan Campbell proceeded to give Craig Reynolds like every carry for the first half entirely, and like I think even into the third quarter. And like on the Chargers side, like historically nobody plays in the Hall of Fame game at all, and if they do play, they don't play very much. And Kamani Vidal played like all the way into the fourth quarter and scored 2 touchdowns, just absolute insanity. So even in preseason, you really never know. But Derrick Henry's not going to play. Justice Hill, the first guy in, I would just imagine he's not going to play like a ton because he is the direct backup right now. Instead, I would be looking at like Keaton Mitchell, coming off an injury 2 years ago, trying to prove himself, was not the same dude last year. It's been said in training camp he is now starting to look like that guy again, but he's going to have to prove it in actual game environment here. And this is a great spot to do that. Are they going to come out and give Keaton Mitchell 15 to 20 carries in a preseason game? No, but they're going to give him opportunities to prove that he is still that dude. So I think Justice Hill's okay. I think Keaton Mitchell in a preseason setting with a little bit more burn is the one that really stands out for me here. Moving on, the Bengals. Hey, if the Bengals are going to get 2 to 4 series, Chase Brown looks really good. I don't have a problem with him at all. If they're going to really give the offense a go and give everybody the green light to just go out there and wreck, Chase Brown is super involved. Love him in general across the board in fantasy. He's going to get carries, he's going to get red zone opportunities, and he's going to get catches out of the backfield. So if the playing time thing is something we can trust in, Chase Brown is going to look really good. P. Ryan is fine as the direct backup to Chase Brown because I would imagine after the Bengals guys exit, he'd filter in to some degree. But it's Taj Brooks who really is going to be looking like a really solid option for me. Late round pick, rookie, fighting for a roster spot. They just cut Zach Moss, so that they feel pretty comfortable in the guys they do have. And he's certainly one of the guys that they like. Some people were speculating early in the summer that he would steal Chase Brown's job. I don't think that's happening at all. But he still needs to prove his worth a little bit. And I think he's going to get the chance to do that, perhaps getting a good amount of burn in the second half. So it's kind of like both sides. Like Chase Brown does look good if you really feel good about the amount of series they're going to get. But either way, Taj Brooks is going to get good run in this game. Probably not going to see the Eagles starters. They're probably either going to be limited if they play, or we're not going to see them at all. Even if we do, Will Shipley looks really, really good as he's fighting for the backup spot with A.J. Dillon behind Saquon Barkley. So, if I were Philly, I would not play Saquon at all in this game, given the workload he had last year en route to the Super Bowl. So we're probably looking at a healthy dose of Dillon and Shipley in between the two. Shipley has more upside, more explosive, better pass catching back. If I was the Eagles, I would want him to win this second job, behind Barkley. So I want to give him a good opportunity to prove himself. So Shipley looks like a pretty solid candidate to get decent work here. Moving on, we got Ashton Jeanty making his pro debut. I know everybody's excited. I just don't know how much Pete Carroll's really going to drive him and the rest of the Raiders starters into the ground in their first game. So don't really trust it. I think there's excitement there, just like with Omarion Hampton in the Hall of Fame game. But much like that was the correct thing to do there, I just think I'll be very underweight on Jeanty for sure. I think you can look at guys like Dylan Lobb and Raheem Mostert and Zamir White and stuff to a certain degree, but I just feel like they're kind of all going to eat into each other. I think of that group, Dylan Lobb stands out the most. Good pass catching back, underrated athlete. Was a bit of a preseason DFS darling for many last year. Just didn't really, it didn't work out. But here, Jeanty should not have a ton of work, and I think Lobb is probably the guy that it makes the most sense if we're going to take a dive here. For Seattle, Kenneth Walker is injured, and they're not playing their starters. So right now, technically, Zach Charbonnet is a starter. Remains to be seen if they view it that way. You could certainly argue both ways. You could say, on one hand, Charbonnet needs to get ready for the starting load if Kenneth Walker's banged up right now. On the other hand, if he's your starter, let's protect him and not play him, right? So however you perceive that is up to you. Right now, I'm probably just going to be looking at Holani and Damian Martinez here. They're probably just going to split the carries in the first half and maybe deeper if we want to go full Kamani Vidal, like the Chargers did. So those guys aren't like, super appealing plays, but they look pretty good. But overall, I'm looking at Giddens. I'm looking at Chase Brown and Taj Brooks, and I'm looking at Will Shipley. At wide receiver, I'm going to just highlight both the Bengals and Colts here first because like pick your poison. Like some of these guys are just going to flat out fail because we don't know really, who's going to hit, obviously, and just who's going to get like a ton of playing time. I would shy away from Michael Pittman first if I was going to just cross somebody off because number one, he and Anthony Richardson do not have the best rapport. Number two, he's just not really a big red zone threat ever. He's never been that guy. More of a PPR machine, and just him and AR-15 just do not mesh. And he's got a back injury. So I would imagine good chance he's out or limited in this game. But the guy who stands out the most, Jamar Chase, like obviously he can take a 75-yard, touchdown at any point in this game. He can come out there for one series and hit. And he's a high volume, extremely explosive player. So if there's one guy that I wouldn't be very shy about using, despite not knowing for sure how much he's going to play, it'd be Jamar Chase. So I'm pretty confident in locking in Chase, despite not knowing for sure what's going to happen. I think T. Higgins, totally fine. If you want to go get Josh Downs, don't have a problem with that either. But the Indy guy that I actually would feel pretty good about mixing in, and it's probably not going to be that own just because of the presence of Chase and a few other guys on this slate, is Alec Pierce. He actually has been dealing with like a blister on his foot, but it seems like he's okay now. And the one thing that Anthony Richardson does well is, he throws bombs. And Alec Pierce is big, he's fast, and he can go get the ball. So assuming he starts and isn't limited by that blister, Alec Pierce looks really, really good, and I think he might get overlooked a tad. Richardson and Josh Downs have a pretty good rapport, so I think I'd play Downs over Pittman as well. And then if we want to kind of break away from the whole which guys are going to play with Richardson and, which Bengals are going to hit, we can start looking at some youngsters like Adonai Mitchell and Jermaine Burton. Those guys were really interesting picks last year. And after those starters exit the field, they're going to benefit the most. So they look pretty interesting. And one other guy who's kind of interesting, Charlie Jones, pretty good college wide receiver, just hasn't really, gotten it done in the pros. It doesn't help that he's been behind T and Chase and, even Boyd and like all these other guys, since he's just been stacked at wide receiver ever since he came to the league. So Charlie Jones is a decent real life wide receiver though. So if he gets a lot of second half run by himself out there, I think he's a decent value. Not sure he's a priority given all the guys we've already discussed, let alone other guys we're going to touch on pretty quickly here. For Baltimore, probably not going to see their starters at all, which means we're not going to be interested in Rashad Bateman or DeAndre Hopkins or Zay Flowers. I mean, I guess there's a mild chance like Nuke could play just because he's new to their offense, but I just doubt it. I think instead we're looking at Ty Wallace or LeJounte Wester. These guys are explosive players who are just by default going to end up starting because Baltimore's sitting all their main guys, so they look pretty good. Obviously a little bit tough to trust because Baltimore's quarterback situation is not the best. Philly, just nobody really stands out, and Devontae Smith's got a back thing. A.J. Brown's got a hamstring. They're not going to play. I just don't think they're going to play. So John Dotson, okay. Johnny Wilson, okay. Just doesn't feel great. So with better options on the board, I'm just not going to do it. Las Vegas, I have a lot of interest here. Obviously, if the starters are in there and actually doing stuff, you can look at Jacoby Myers, you can look at Trey Tucker, but I'm looking at all these young guys in particular because I just don't really believe the Raiders are going to play a ton. Thornton, Besh, you got the guy that I really like here is Tommy Mellett. And the big reason why is because he's a converted college quarterback, speedy, athletic, elusive. He's really tiny, but they drafted him completely with this knowledge that he's a quarterback that may or may not work out. So they're going to give him a chance to prove that he can get it done. So I think he's really, really interesting in a sleeper play to cap off the slate. And Seattle, they're going to sit their starters. Like I said, no Cup, no JSN, probably no MVS. So the big guy here is going to be Torrey Horton, really good college wide receiver, nice sleeper pick for them in the draft. And obviously with no DK Metcalf there and Cup being 32 and made of glass, he might be a breakout candidate in redraft. So I like him a lot. I think he's going to shine. He's been doing just that in training camp. So he looks really, really good. And of course, the guy that we always go back to, Jake Bobo. He's probably going to end up getting a decent amount of run in this game as a guy who's, a fringe roster player in the first place. So I expect him to get a good amount of work. I favor Torrey Horton, but Bobo is totally in play. Not going to go over the defenses in this video. They're a crapshoot. Just target, weak offenses that you aren't, using players from, like Philly's offense or the Ravens offense. The last one here, we got tight end. Ty Warren should get a good amount of work with Anthony Richardson. Obviously, really good college athlete, very productive at Penn State. They love him. They drafted him in the first round. I would imagine they want to give him every chance to start and succeed. So, just it works both ways with him and Anthony Richardson. So I got to think he is the top tight end play. Just think he's probably going to be chalky too, which is totally fine. But that's not going to stop me from playing him. You can certainly flirt with all the other guys that Indy has, but it's just Ty Warren or bust for me. Mark Andrews probably not going to play this game for the Ravens, and Isaiah Likely is probably out until week 1, maybe more. So for me, that kind of puts Charlie Kohler on the, he puts him in play a little bit. Veteran tight end who honestly kind of outplayed Likely the past couple of years, like in preseason and training camp, and then Isaiah Likely just kind of obviously blossomed into the better player. But now he gets a little bit of an opportunity to prove what he can do in preseason play. So I think he's an okay play. Certainly Ty Warren above him. Tight end at Cincy is pretty interesting because we have no Mike Gesicki. He has been ruled out for this game. And Eric All Jr. is on IR, and he's probably not going to play the entire season. So you're looking at Drew Sample and Tanner Hudson getting a good amount of work. Neither of these guys are fun plays. They're very, not great athletes. They're not going to do a lot after the catch. Very, low or short yardage area guys. So just not really, really interesting plays, especially when Jamar Chase and T. Higgins are there. But Gesicki's not there. All's not there. They're going to split the tight end reps at least for as long as the starting offense is out there. So I think they're okay if you want to go there. For Philly, I'm still assuming the Eagle starters are not going to play, which would probably mean no Dallas Goedert. If I'm right about that, we can look at Calcaterra as a solid backup play here for Philly. But once again, like Philly, Baltimore, not super excited to play them. Las Vegas, we could play Brock Bowers. If we get news that the Raiders are going to play a ton, or even play like the Bengals or the Colt starters are doing, I'm playing. I'd be fine with playing Bowers if that's the case. But as things stand, like why do that? Why risk it? I don't really see the point. So Bowers probably not going to play a ton. So I'm not going to get a super amount of exposure to him unless something changes. But Michael Mayer, he actually is pretty interesting because he's actually a good player. He's a good tight end, solid blocker, solid offensive player. He just isn't Brock Bowers. That's not his fault. To the point where he's even kind of asked for a trade. So this could be a showcase game. This could just be like the Raiders showing them, hey, this is how we will get you involved to some degree in this offense. Whatever the case, I can imagine him seeing a little bit of time and possibly being a viable option. Just not a super big priority. For me, it's probably just going to be between the rookies, Ty Warren and, of course, Elijah Arroyo. Good, solid tight end. Seahawks took him in the second round. They got rid of Noah Fant, so it's basically him or A.J. Barner. If they're not playing the starters and Barner is the starter, then that means Arroyo is going to start this game. If they don't really know if they're committing to Barner as the starter, then Barner and Arroyo are probably going to split work here and both be decent options, with me personally leaning to Arroyo. So there's a lot to actually still flesh out a little bit. We still need to get confirmation from Pete Carroll's, how long are the Raiders playing officially, what's happening with the Eagles starters, and just to see if there's anything else as far as who's starting at quarterback for Philly, Baltimore, that kind of thing. But right now we do have a lot of information to kind of start formulating what we want to do. If you want finalized picks like my core for this slate, you got to hit up Patreon, $5.99 a month to get access to that, plus WNBA, MMA, MLB, everything that we do to get in on that. But if anything I did here helps you, remember, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel so you can catch future videos just like this. Thanks for watching and good luck.